Deadpool might seem like a big goofball, but you have to admit, he's got moves. And there are many times when he has used said moves to best shame and insult his peers. Dazzler is a pretty confident person, but even she has had her day ruined by, you guessed it, Deadpool. And after he helped save her, no less. This all went down in Deadpool issue number 31 from the 2013 run on Deadpool. Here, Deadpool is in the past where he saves Alice and Blair from a bunch of vampires. However, their vamp hunting is not done just yet. But when Deadpool gets an important text, he ends up ditching Daz to deal with an emergency, leaving her to face the rest of the vampire horde solo. While Dazzler kind of just gets left holding the bag there, Wolverine sets himself up for this moment of embarrassment in Wolverine issue number 88. It all goes down when Deadpool decides to pay Garrison Kane a visit at the very same time Wolverine does. Or just before, rather. Wolverine is there to check in on Garrison on behalf of his friend James Hudson, aka Guardian from Alpha Flight, but Deadpool arrived just a bit before to find Kane so that he might get to his ex, Vanessa Carlyle, who he heard was running around with the cyborg. Deadpool trashes the place, but Garrison and Vanessa are not there, and he can't seem to figure out where they've gone. When Wolverine arrives, he's all wound up and he's ready to fight the old knucklehead, making quick work of him too when Logan leaps over Deadpool, kicking him in the face just as Deadpool comes up underneath the Wolvie and shish kebabs him. Who do you think is a more skilled fighter between the two of these characters? They both have a healing factor, but whose do you think is stronger? Is it one of them, or actually someone else who has the strongest healing factor in comics too? Personally, I think Wolverine's is pretty strong. I also think Wolverine maybe has a better skill set, but no offense, Wade, I think you also got some moves, clearly. Elektra and Deadpool are both members of the Thunderbolts. While working on the team together back in the days of 2013, circa Volume 2 of the Thunderbolts, they didn't always team up together. But when they did, it was honestly a riot. Case in point, Thunderbolts Annual issue number 1, where we saw them team up together to steal Elsa Bloodstone's Bloodstone Choker. They sneak into Bloodstone Manor, and throughout the heist, Deadpool is constantly in awe of everything Elektra is doing. While his fanboying doesn't seem to faze her, she is bothered by his constant loud exclamations of praise because, you know, being loud while you're trying to sneak around on a heist is usually ill-advised. Needless to say, much to the disappointment of Elektra, they do get caught by Elsa and her monsters, and are locked up in a dungeon with the most unruly monsters in her manor, the ones who can't be redeemed or reasoned with. It's what happens when you team up with Wade on a sneaking mission. It doesn't go well. Deadpool has embarrassed many a team, and he has also embarrassed not just Psylocke, but the entire X-Force team here when he pulled them in the 2012 run of the Deadpool series. Nearer to the end, Deadpool was attempting to get himself killed as he just wanted to basically end everything. To do this, he would need a serum that removed his powers. Weirdly, having his powers removed would also give him a new lease on life that would lead to him not actually wanting to end his life and also make him handsome again. But I digress. To make this happen, he manipulated X-Force into working with him under the guise that they were chasing down someone who had attempted to assassinate him, which was kind of true. At one point, his plan involves having X-Force teleported to a location where they are all confronted by Kingpin's ally, Typhoid Mary, and pretty much like a whole army of the Hand Ninjas. In the very first issue of the third volume of Deadpool from 1997, Wade faces off against his old pal, Dr. Walter Langowski, aka the Alpha Flight team member and hero, Sasquatch. During their fight, not only does Deadpool give Sasquatch a physical run for his money, but he also taunts the heck out of Walter as well. He makes fun of Walter's appearance as Sasquatch, implies that he got busy with Walter's main squeeze Aurora, and threatens to lick Sasquatch's hand. Ew. Despite their feud though, in the end, Deadpool puts himself at risk to take out a nuclear threat. One that he created, but he didn't know how bad it was gonna be. And Sasquatch carries Deadpool to safety, planning to aid in his recovery, and honestly impressed by this albeit dumb but heroic act. When it comes to this next entry on our list, these two are usually my favorite to see team up, as it's constantly a back and forth between them of who is messing with who, and that's what I love to see. They just got great banter. In this instance, we had the Cable/Deadpool annual, where Deadpool, after messing with time travel, royally messes up both his and Nathan's day by putting them in a scenario where, as Cable said, they could very much actually die and they might not survive this. That is how badly Deadpool messed up here. Weirdly impressive considering how powerful both Deadpool and Cable are when they're teamed up together. This is just the beginning of the story too. The rest of the annual is actually used to explain exactly how they got here. I love in medias res storytelling, so good. And if you thought that was embarrassing, nothing's as embarrassing like tricking someone into falling into a giant pile of 372,844 pancakes in the morning, which is exactly what Deadpool did to Domino. This was back in the 2008 run of Deadpool when Wade was looking to join the X-Men. Granted, he did all this to Domino because in his crazy mind, it was a foolproof way to learn if Domino's offer to join the X-Men was really sincere and not just part of a plot to try and eliminate him. He figured if he got rid of Domino and she was there to take him out under the guise of offering him X-Men membership, the X-Men would have sent a backup team with her, which would be deployed the moment that she was taken out. When no team jumped out to take her place, he instead helped her up out of that big pile of pancakes and then offered her some of them. There's nothing that I love more than a Spider-Man and Deadpool team up, but of course, it wouldn't be complete unless it ended in complete and total embarrassment. For one of the two of our heroes, sure, but usually, of course, for Spider-Man. I mean, Deadpool doesn't get easily embarrassed, so of course, it would be Spider-Man. This went down at the end of their adventure together in Spider-Man/Deadpool issue number 18. Spider-Man and Deadpool here are confronted by their weird hybrid offspring, a clone made from both their genetic material named Itsy Bitsy. She was dangerous as all heck and even drove Spider-Man to a point where he considered taking her out. However, Deadpool, who at this point had actually been working on becoming less murderous himself, decides to compromise his own newly developing morals to take out Itsy Bitsy so that he can save Peter from making that mistake and corrupting himself in that way by taking a life. Something Peter very rarely, if ever, actually does in the comics. He is usually a pretty big goody two-shoes. This led to a cute little bromance moment after, involving a conversation about loved ones filling the empty holes inside of us, but of course, the moment was then utterly ruined mid-hug by Deadpool offering to fill Spider-Man's holes anytime. In this next turn of events, Cyclops played right into Wade's hands. This was when Deadpool was given temporary membership to the X-Men, the story that also had all those pancakes that I talked about a few entries ago. It turns out they had only offered Deadpool a place on the team because they wanted to keep a close eye on him. While hurt by this, Deadpool still did his best to play his part as an X-Men, regardless of whether or not his membership was considered to be, real by them, by helping the mutants out. He took the fall for them, and then in the end antagonized Psyche so that Psyche would actually fight an unmasked Deadpool while Wade was wearing his own unofficial X-Men costume that he'd made himself. In the end, while he didn't want to, Cyclops was forced to admit that indeed Deadpool did have moves. Now this next one wasn't the real Captain America, it wasn't even Hydra Captain America. More real though than that version, this was a version of Captain America who at the time was possessed. He had his form taken over by an alien who Deadpool had thought would come to destroy mankind, but who had really come to bring peace to Earth, but by in turn possessing all of Earth's inhabitants and removing free will from them, which would result in peace, but at a pretty high cost, the cost of all of our free will. Deadpool at this time was imbued with cool armor by another entity known as Tiamat, initially prophesied to be the villain in this scenario, but actually aiding and fighting back against the alien entity who had possessed Earth. That's also why Deadpool looks the way he does here, just FYI. While Deadpool struggled with the moral quandary of which was better, peace or free will, Deadpool ultimately decided to choose free will and defeated possessed Captain America by kicking him in a very sensitive area. Doing so in order to, of course, save the world. So weirdly, he was able to save the world by kicking Captain America in a very special place.
Starting at number 10, Stealing the Powers of the Silver Surfer. Fantastic Four from 1961, number 57, sees Dr. Doom take the power cosmic from the Herald of Galactus himself. The Silver Surfer ends up in Latveria and receives an invitation from Dr. Doom himself. The Surfer goes and Doom gives him a tour of his laboratory, acting very uncharacteristically humble and friendly. He then distracts the Surfer with a temporal photo of the universe, because of course he does, and then uses in conductors to steal his cosmic powers. Doom then steals the Surfer's surfboard and flies to New York to attack the Fantastic Four with his newfound power. Number 9. Avengers Emperor Doom. In Avengers Emperor Doom, Victor uses a psychoprism to imprison the villain Purple Man and use his willpower manipulating abilities to force nearly everyone on Earth to obey Dr. Doom. He obviously succeeded, with the only Avenger not affected by Purple Man's powers being Wonder Man, who is horrified to find Doom in control of the entire world. Only, Doom's world isn't exactly a bad place. Peace has been achieved, crime is practically non-existent, even nuclear weapons have been destroyed, and apartheid had been ended. On the other hand though, the people of the world were not actually free to do what they wished with their own willpower. Since Doom is ultimately the villain though, Wonder Man begins freeing the Avengers, who collectively have the strongest willpower, so they can team up to overthrow Doom, setting the world back to its former order. But I think a lot of readers were kind of like, hey, wait a minute, maybe Doom's world ain't so bad, bro. If you fans of Doom are enjoying this video, and you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to us here at Top 10 Nerd to see more videos like this one. Alright. Moving on. Number 8. Saved the multiverse. In 2015's Secret Wars, the Beyonders, incredibly powerful alien entities from another dimension, planned to destroy all of creation by using the Molecule Man, who was actually created by the Beyonders, to be detonated and act as a universe-destroying force. Luckily for all of reality, Dr. Doom exists. The Molecule Man from Earth 616, along with Dr. Doom and Doctor Strange, gathered a bunch of Molecule Men from various realities, combined them into a super weapon, and launched this weapon against the Beyonders with a kiss and a hug. It completely destroyed the Beyonders, but it also destroyed everything else. Someone needed to take the energy from the Beyonders and recreate all of existence, and who is more worthy than Victor Von Doom? Doom recreated reality in the form of Battleworld. Now, of course, in this new reality, Doom was the Emperor, the Thing was turned into a giant wall, and Johnny Storm was the sun, but the villain Dr. Doom saved the Marvel multiverse. How many heroes can say that? Number 7. Selling Doctor Strange to Mephisto. In the beginning of his comic book life, Doom wanted nothing more than to save his mother from the hold of Mephisto. Once a year, every year, Doom would challenge Mephisto for the fate of his mother's soul, but he almost always lost. Until 1989, when he teamed up with Doctor Strange in Triumph and Torment. Shortly after their arrival in Hell, the Doctors began to realize that they don't really stand a chance at winning at all. When the two become separated, Mephisto makes Doom an offer. Doctor Strange's soul in exchange for his mother's. A deal that Doom actually accepts. Doom captured Strange and made the deal, but after Doom's mom became so offended that her son would sell the Sorcerer Supreme just to save her soul, she refused to be freed, and that's when Dr. Doom's real plan could actually kick in. Thanks to his mother's pure act and a gadget that Doom slipped into Strange's cloak, the Sorcerer Supreme was able to use the light of this pure act to wound Mephisto and free himself and Victor's mother, and the three of them escaped. Doom pulled an old Uno reverse by not letting the Sorcerer Supreme in on his plan. Number 6. Doombots. In the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, in an episode fittingly titled Doomed, the heroes decide to prove themselves by catching S.H.I.E.L.D's most wanted villain, Dr. Doom. The kids actually seem to do it though, successfully capturing Doom and returning him to the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. But it's never that simple with Dr. Doom. After he arrives, Doom reveals that he was actually the Mark VI Hoberman, which is a version of the Doombot with a bunch of smaller Doombots inside, each smaller than the last one, like one of those Russian nesting dolls. The robots work together, very nearly crashing the helicarrier and everyone inside. One of the littlest Doombots even yells, "Feel the wrath of Doom!" in like a super high-pitched voice. It's honestly quite fantastic. Number 5. He was a more successful Iron Man. Infamous Iron Man will forever be one of my favorite Dr. Doom related stories, and it's honestly because of that awesome armor, but also because Doom almost does a better job fighting crime than Tony Stark himself. Taking up the mantle of the then comaed Tony Stark, Victor Von Doom declares himself a hero and went about trying to fix the world. But not just any hero, he specifically takes on on the role of Iron Man. One of the ways Doom went about saving the world was using his knowledge of the criminal underworld, from when he was a criminal, to arrest a large gathering of villains in one big move. What's kind of hilarious is that these villains were all gathered to figure out what they were going to actually do now that Doom has switched sides. During that, Doom busts in through the roof and took down heavy hitters such as the Wizard, the Wrecking Crew, the Hood, and Jigsaw all in one go. Number 4. Doom War. If you've never read Doom War, it's probably one of Dr. Doom's more ruthless moments. Essentially, after funding a coup that banished T'Challa from Wakanda, Doom set his sights on Wakanda's treasure, the Vibranium Mound. However, T'Challa had hidden the Vibranium behind a series of increasingly complex locks. The last of these locks was a bit more spiritual, as in order to get through it, you needed to be deemed worthy by the Panther God herself. Not many of us thought Doom could do that, but it's Dr. Doom. He immediately strips down to his nothings and offers himself up for judgment. Now the Panther Goddess realizes and notes that not only does Doom want to create a peaceful world for all mankind, but that out of a million different futures, his is the one that creates a world without evil. You can imagine that T'Challa was quite taken aback by that one. Number 3. Save the world where others failed. Again, I guess. In Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Human Torch, an alternate universe story, The Thing was killed trying to fight Galactus with his fists. Honestly, someone should have told him that that was a bad idea. Either way, it happened, and Reed Richards went mad with grief and tried to take down Galactus himself, which actually didn't work out and left the whole world defenseless. And of course, it's Dr. Doom who comes to the rescue, with both a plan and alien technology. Doom ends up swapping minds with Galactus, leaving the Devourer trapped in Doom's body while Doom's mind now controls the cosmic force of nature. Despite his newfound hunger, Doom swore to the people of Earth that they would be spared, and he didn't lie. Doom didn't eat the Earth. Instead, he ate literally everything else in the whole entire universe. But he defeated Galactus and Reed Richards did not, and that probably made Doom happier than any amount of planet consuming. Number 2. The Sentry. I could very easily do a speed round of Dr. Doom overpowering heroes and villains alike. He's removed the powers of the Fantastic Four in Fantastic Four number 70. His willpower is strong enough to overcome the persuasion powers of Purple Man and Emperor Doom. He has put down the Hulk, taken hits from Thor, and sensed the telepathic powers of Emma Frost. But I think what kind of makes me drop my jaw more than anything else is when he has gone up against the Sentry. The Sentry is probably the most powerful of Marvel's Superman-like characters. He's kind of basically a god. But Doom is Doom, and Doom cares not for gods. Not only has he tanked hits from the Sentry, which is absolutely insane, but in the mighty Avengers number 10, Doom uses magic to very, very badly hurt a mentally distressed Sentry simply for placing his hands on the one and only Doom. And in at number 1 is Latveria. Okay, so this point isn't really a single instance, it's more like a constant. One of the biggest things about Doom that I think puts heroes to shame on the daily is the fact that he has made his country one of the greatest in the world, and despite being a bit of a dictator, his people love him for it. After becoming Doom, he returned to Latveria and took the country from the dictator that had ruined his life from birth. And he made the country one of the greatest nations on Earth. Some of the lowest crime rates, the highest literacy, and the highest employment rates, and it's a world power. He had complete control always, but unlike dictators who are loved at first and then hated, Doom was always loved. Heroes like Ben Grimm, for example, found this out on their own in issue number 10 of Infamous Iron Man when Ben was talking to a Latvian citizen. He said, "At least Doom is gone," and then the woman was like, no, I'd give anything to have him back, he always loved us.
Number 10. Outsmarted. One of the most famous fights between the Hulk and the Thing also happens to be one of the first. This one goes down in Fantastic Four issue number 12, where the Fantastic Four are led to believe that the Hulk is the one behind a bunch of destruction, an attempt to get together to try and stop him. However, this does not end up working out very well. That's because the Hulk is not only the strongest there is, but he also manages to outsmart them almost completely. Hulk realizes that the FF have the advantage, since together they are very powerful, but if he can take them on one by one, then he stands a better chance at defeating them. That's right, it wasn't even his brute strength, but his strategy that allowed him to defeat the Fantastic Four this time around. Well, Almost. The thing seemingly defeats the Hulk with his piledriver punch, but in reality, his punch misses, and it was actually an energy ray that hit the Hulk and knocked him out. Fortunately though, this reveals to the FF that the Hulk was not behind all the destruction, and yeah. They can at least now go after the people that are actually responsible. Number 9. Illuminate the Truth. In the secondary short comic that is included in the World War Hulk prologue Worldbreaker, titled Round Trip, we get to see an alternate Hulk embarrass a group he refers to as the Illuminators, obviously the more cartoonish version of the Illuminati. This group ends up sending Hulk to space and another planet in a spaceship, ultimately because he stole Namor's sandwich. How does Hulk embarrass them? In a similar fashion to his plan in the reality of Earth 616, he ends up heading homeward after the group exiles him. Here he doesn't necessarily seem to have the same trauma behind him as he does on 616, fueling his rage even more, but the Illuminators are still completely in a tizzy over the fact that the Hulk ship seems to be on a return course after they sent him away. Except Namor. Namor feels safe knowing that he lives deep in the ocean and that if the surface world gets all smashed up, he and his kingdom will probably still be good. And friends, before we move on to the next spot on this list, if you love our channel and you love our content, be sure to head on over to Facebook to show us that love and support by giving us a follow and a like. I think that's one of the things you do on Facebook. You like stuff. Hey. Number 8. To Hear You Scream. Speaking of World War Hulk, one of the most embarrassing fights comes from the very beginning of that event, in World War Hulk issue number 1, when Hulk faces off against Black Bolt. Black Bolt and his queen Medusa, you see, have some ego, which ends up quickly turning into hubris for them. Black Bolt had fought the Hulk before and won, so it was for this reason that they barely even gave Hulk the time of day when he shows up. When Hulk rushes them both, angry for what has happened to his people and the planet that he freed and made his own, Black Bolt only responds with a whisper, saying, "Enough," and with the force of his words pushing Hulk far back. But Hulk ends up coming out on top as he immediately recovers and leaps back at Black Bolt. He didn't come to Attilan for a whisper, he came to hear Black Bolt scream, and it definitely seems like he makes him scream. It does not look like he's in great shape after that conversation. Number 7. Size isn't everything. It really isn't in terms of battle, as is proven in the Ultimates issue number 5. You see, in the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, Hulk isn't exactly a hero. Here the Avengers are known as the Ultimates, although there is also an Avengers team in this reality, but trust me, they aren't quite the heroic equivalent to the 616 team that we know. But the Ultimates pretty much are that. As Hulk goes on a rampage downtown, the Ultimates must band together in an effort to defeat him. And to be clear, in this reality, Hulk isn't on the Ultimates. The first one up to bat to try to tackle this big beast is Giant Man, aka Hank Pym. He attempts to defeat the Hulk as, well, a giant man. But just because Hulk is smaller than Hank doesn't mean he can't still pack a punch. While Giant Man attempts to hold Hulk beneath his hands and ask him to calm down, also calling him puny, Hulk responds by jumping onto Giant Man's face and threatening to rip his head off and use it like a toilet bowl, before punching his lights out. Proving that, yeah, even if you think, well, I'm a lot bigger than the Hulk, it doesn't mean that the Hulk can't mess you up. Number 6. Bustin' makes me feel not so good. In the case of Tony Stark, that is. While the Hulkbuster became a famous suit of armor in the Avengers film franchise, we also know it from the comics. During the events of World War Hulk, Tony attempted to use this armor to defeat the Hulk when he returned to Earth and threatened to destroy it if he wasn't given the heroes responsible for sending him into space. One of which who was responsible was Tony, who actually initially created the Illuminati group that sent the Hulk away. Tony had also created nanotech, which would in theory be capable of suppressing the Hulk's powers, actually even forcibly using it on Jennifer Walters previously, which she actually sued him for in return. However, the Hulkbuster, the nanosuppressant, even the big bombs that they attempted to use all did nothing. Hulk's pain was so intense, his anger so great, that he became powerful enough to survive all of this and remain in his Hulk form. So apparently it doesn't matter how smart you are, Tony, or how prepared. In the end, if Hulk wants to smash, he's going to continue to smash. You Can't Hulk bust your way out of that one. Number 5. Jacques. Blade is one of the newest members of the Avengers main roster. And being new, it seems that he doesn't quite understand how best to deal with other Avengers members, like former and founding Avenger member the Hulk. While Hulk is on a rampage, the Avengers attempt to intercede in Immortal Hulk issue 47, and Blade thinks he has it all figured out. He thinks that Hulk has actually been transformed into a vampire thanks to his new/old powers like being stronger at night and being able to return from the dead. Blade might know vampires, but that doesn't mean he's always right when it comes to his suspicions. Hulk's response to Blade's accusation? To ask him if he can turn into a bat, being that Blade is also part vampire. Blade responds with no, and Hulk tells him it's a good time to learn as he tosses him up high and away. He's like, hey, can you do that? You can't? Great. Bye. Number 4. Hot tubbing. While some people might focus on when Hulk beat Thor in Thor Ragnarok in the MCU when it comes to embarrassing moments, I think there is one that tops that. After the fight, Thor is taken to Hulk's private quarters, where his wounds are tended to. When he awakes with a start, he notices Hulk is also there in what appears to be a hot tub? Hulk hot tub. Thor asks Hulk about how he ended up here, and when he finds out that he crash landed on Sakaar via a Quinjet, asks him where the Quinjet is. Hulk responds by getting up out of the tub and crossing the room to where the window is to show Thor the current location of the Quinjet now. This is when Thor learns that Hulk was, naked in that hot tub, which prompts him to seemingly avert his eyes and remark on how that image is now permanently burned into his mind. Yeah, he looks pretty uncomfortable and pretty embarrassed. Oh boy. Number 3. Love frenzy. There was that one time Bruce Banner as the Hulk completely lost it, going into a frenzy that caused him to try and both chase down and beat up She-Hulk. And not only that either. It turns out this whole attempt to do so was actually kind of part of a mating ritual thing. It seems that Hulk forgot that She-Hulk was his cousin, because he was in a frenzied Hulk form. Luckily, Hulk didn't get his way here and was eventually set right again. Although in the Old Man Logan universe, the two do apparently end up together, and we don't really know if Jen was here for that or not. Either way, the whole ordeal is pretty embarrassing for Jen, but also likely embarrassing for Bruce as well, if he was told about it afterwards. It's just embarrassing all around, and also pretty, squicky. Ugh. Number 2. Ripped in two. Wow, I like how I made number 2 ripped in two. I didn't do that on purpose, but that's good. When Ultimate Wolverine and Ultimate Hulk fought one another in the Ultimate Universe, Hulk pretty much put Wolverine to shame. In this alternate universe of Earth 1610, Wolverine was hired by Nick Fury to track down the Hulk. Wolverine tracked him down alright, but wasn't so good at dealing with him once he did. At one point, Hulk tears Wolverine straight down the middle and tosses his legs so far away that Logan has a challenging time recovering them. And of course I mean right down the middle, not down the middle this way, down across the middle, I guess I should say. In this reality, Wolverine can't just grow new legs, by the way. In order to recover, he needs to find and basically reattach his legs so that his healing powers, or his survival powers more can basically take effect and kick in and heal him. So yeah, he had to crawl all the way over to find his legs in the snow. Great. Also, mountains. There were mountains there. Number 1. Why are you hitting yourself? While Thor and Hulk fought in Ragnarok, where Hulk only really won against Thor thanks to the help of Grandmaster, tasing Thor until he passed out, just as he was figuring out how to harness the power of lightning without his hammer too, in the comics these two have fought actually multiple times. One such occasion involved a showdown where Hulk made fun of Thor for having long hair, mistaking him for a hairy lady and telling him that he should get a haircut. Thor of course did not take too kindly to these remarks about his long golden locks, which he quite loves, and fought back against Hulk with his hammer Mjolnir. However, Thor ended up surprised when Hulk refused to surrender, claiming he was the strongest there will ever be, before grabbing Thor's hammer arm and then making Thor basically hit himself with Mjolnir. Ouch. Hey Thor, why are you hitting yourself?
Number 10. Hulk. We all know of the famous Hulkbuster suit. But would it just blow your minds if I told you that Iron Man has defeated the Hulk without it? Yes, that's right. In Iron Man issue 132, our Golden Avenger faced off mano-a-mano against the strongest Green Avenger. And when I tell you this was one hell of a fight, I ain't lying. After an attempt at helping Bruce Banner results in the Hulk persona emerging, resulting in Tony donning the suit and protecting his employees, the fight goes from Stark Industries to underwater to an Air Force base where the two basically play baseball with a luggage carrier and Tony's favorite jet. The resulting explosion stunned the Hulk, and in that moment, Tony mustered every bit of solar and reserve energy he could, overriding the safety protocols of his suit to hit the stunned Hulk with a singular massive punch that knocked out Hulk and killed that suit of armor. Number 9. Sentry / The Void. This is one of those do whatever the hell I can to defeat you kind of moments. In the Marvel Siege storyline, Bob Reynolds, the Sentry, one of Marvel's Superman characters, has joined with Norman Osborn and his Dark Avengers, being somewhat taken over by the Void. In the end of the story, the Sentry, using the power of the Void, was directed by Osborn to take out the floating city of Asgard, which he did, sending it crashing to the ground. And then he de-lifed Loki. The other Avengers and Thor have not been able to defeat Sentry / Void yet, so as one last ditch attempt, Iron Man uses a whole Hammer helicarrier as a missile and crashes the whole thing down on top of him. This weakens the Void enough that Thor can end him with a blow from Mjolnir, but damn, Tony really just had enough of this guy. Number 8. Hawkeye. Surprise! Hawkeye does not stand a chance against Iron Man, but he did actually put up a pretty good fight the first 2 times they fought. Both times were in Tales of Suspense in issue 57 and 60. Hawkeye's first appearances before he was actually a hero, when he was instead a criminal. Natasha Romanoff, who is also a criminal at the time, tricks Clint into helping her steal Tony's powerful tech. It doesn't go too well for them though. At the end of the first fight in issue 57, Tony gets Clint clinging onto a pole, which he then bends and flicks like one of those little door stopper things, thwanging little Robin Hood here into the water and then saving the unconscious Clint from drowning. Doth mother know you have not liked or subscribed? Well, that's okay if you don't want to, but it would be appreciated. Okay, let's move on. Number 7. Captain Marvel and Gamora. Combo! Wham bam! Actually, more like pew pew. Look, love it or hate it, the second Marvel Civil War event happened. I could get into what the conflict itself was actually about, but that doesn't really have anything to do with this point. The main thing you need to know is that, just like the first Civil War, the superhuman community is split, with Iron Man leading one side and Carol Danvers leading the other. At the time of this story, Iron Man was sporting his Model Prime armor, an armor that could basically shapeshift and change color for whatever it was he needed to do at the time, making the need for multiple armors a little redundant. During a conflict with Captain Marvel and her group, Tony was under attack from some pretty powerful heroes, specifically Captain Marvel and Gamora jumped in to do battle before they were dispatched from a single blast from Iron Man. Just one shot is all he needed. Damn. Number 6. Emma Frost. Did you know the Avengers fought the X-Men? Yes, it's true. And a comic titled, get this, Avengers vs. X-Men. It's a good title. Seriously though, the conflict blossomed when the Phoenix Force is headed straight to Earth with mutant Hope Summers as its supposed host. The Avengers believe this is bad juju for the population of Earth, and the X-Men think this is gonna be what they need for the mutant population to be reborn. A battle happens between the two teams at the mutant island of Utopia. Partway through, Emma Frost comes to make a move, saying telepathically to Cyclops she can shut down the Avengers telepathically, and she is going to end this. Then Iron Man chimes in, I bet you thought you were just about to end this, as he fires microscopic telepathic tasers at her and hopes she will let him make it up to her over dinner. She punches him in the stomach and he blasts back with his repulsors, but this genuinely made me snicker. Number 5. Facial hair bros. Right smack dab in the middle of the video, sort of not really, I want to do something completely different. Something finally not combat related. Yet a victory for Tony and an embarrassment for none other than Stephen Strange the Sorcerer Supreme. In Invincible Iron Man number 3, Iron Man goes to Doctor Strange for help with a little problem he is having. As he's about to leave the Sanctum Sanctorum, he goes, "Thanks, Doctor," and stays there like this for 8 comic book panels, until Steven gives him a very, very reluctant high five as Tony yells, "Awesome, facial hair bros!" And Steven says, "I hate you." I'm sorry, I had to include this. Number 4. Namor. Iron Man and Namor the Submariner have always had a pretty tense relationship. both having massive egos. They have gone at it with their words and their fisticuffs multiple different times. From what I can tell, the powerful Submariner usually has the win more than often. But Iron Man isn't a pushover. He's gotten some good shots, and in Iron Man number 25 in 1970, we have an example of him winning. In a somewhat hilarious way too. Basically, unbeknownst to Tony, his company had been polluting the ocean with a pipeline. Now yes, that is very, very bad. But if you just go and talk to Tony, I'm sure he'd fix the issue. No, that is not the Submariner's way. No, instead, he attacks, destroying the pipeline and then attacking the buildings it's connected to. To subdue Namor, Tony uses the heating coils of his suit to evaporate all the water in Namor's body, basically rendering him powerless. And then he ties him up to an under construction tower using metal beams. It's kind of hilarious looking, and I feel like Namor could easily slip out of that, like the power of gravity, but it's certainly embarrassing. Number 3, Spider-Man. Spider-Man and Iron Man here have a bit of an interesting relationship. In the MCU, it's very father-son, but in the comics, and specifically in the Civil War event, while Tony takes Peter under his wing and even gives him some great upgrades, actually manipulates the Spider-Lad quite a little bit. Spider-Man switches to Captain America's side, and in Iron Man Volume 4, number 14, Spider-Man, alongside a few other heroes, launch a surprise attack on Tony. While Spider-Man has beaten Tony before, specifically when Tony threatened Mary Jane and Aunt May, the use of the spider armor gave Tony a ton of information about Parker's spider sense. Not just being able to replicate it for himself, but he got the information to use Peter's against him, which he does while making a nice little baseball themed strike 1, 2, and 3, fitting as they are fighting at Yankee Stadium. Number 2, Daredevil. You know what? I really liked Superior Iron Man. The story was cool, and Tony was, well, he was kind of an almost villain, honestly. Specifically, there were 2 times with Daredevil that showcased this really well. After Tony got the whole population of San Francisco addicted to a social media platform, and then began charging them subscription fees for it, trust me, it's a lot more sinister than I'm making it sound, Daredevil goes to Tony's base on Alcatraz Island to confront him, and shut him down. Obviously, that wasn't going to go the way he wanted it to. But even I didn't expect Tony to just pick him up by the throat, tell him he's always welcome but to leave the attitude at home, and then straight up just chuck the blind superhero without fear into the freezing waters of the San Francisco Bay. Cold. Literally. Number 1, Captain America. We love Civil War. Not the actual Civil War, the Marvel one. So many great examples of superheroes fighting other superheroes. But the main star of the show in this conflict is Iron Man versus Captain America. And while the climactic fight ultimately ended in a Captain America favored draw, I'd say the first major fight was definitely more of a win for Tony. In issue 3 and 4 of the main Civil War comic, a battle takes place between the forces of both Cap and Stark. While Steve is fighting Spider-Man, Iron Man comes swooping in, attacking with an armor that's analyzed every fight Cap has ever had. And he just starts going to town on the guy, feeding him the left, right, until Cap is absolutely battered. Cap still doesn't go down, so Tony uses a high frequency that shuts down the human brain. He's about to end the fight when Hercules jumps in, attacking him with an oil tanker truck. Number 10, the Human Torch. Johnny Storm and Peter Parker have been very close friends for a long time. And in comic books, where there is friendship, there is competitive rivalry. In the first video, I talked about the time the Fantastic Four first met Spider-Man, and the way he embarrassed every single one of them. Well, now I want to talk about something a little sillier. In the Spider-Man / Human Torch I'm With Stupid miniseries, Johnny Storm hires Peter Parker to get really good pictures of him since he just became a hero and he wanted some good publicity. Yes, really. Wanting some pictures of Johnny against a villain, he goes to Dr. Doom's lair and gets himself encased in a block of ice. Yes, really, again. Spider-Man saves him and swings him away and makes web ice picks to start getting Johnny out of his popsicle form. But after Johnny struggles a little bit too much, Peter accidentally chips away the part of ice holding Johnny's beloved golden hair, leaving him bald and crying for Reed Richards to fix the problem. Yes, really, for a 3rd time. Number 9, Ghost Rider. Say what you want about Spider-Man, but he is a hero, through and through. And sometimes he needs to remind others how to be that. In Spider-Man number 7 in 1990, Spider-Man and Ghost Rider are working together to defeat Hobgoblin. A kid named Adam gets grabbed by Hobgoblin, causing Spider-Man to look for a less direct approach. but not Ghost Rider. He barrels straight into Hobgoblin on his motorcycle, hitting Adam as well. Spider-Man gets to Adam before he crashes right into a wall. As Ghost Rider gets his hands on the unconscious Hobgoblin and is about to do his penance stare on him, Spider-Man interrupts him, saving Hobgoblin and giving Ghost Rider an earful about what it means to be a hero, sending him walking away in shame. Number 8. Doctor Strange. If you've seen Spider-Man No Way Home, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't yet, allow me to explain, or skip to the next point if you don't want spoilers, but I promise you, I'll keep it light. Okay, so basically a whole whack of stuff takes place and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man end up fighting over an artifact. During the scuffle, Doctor Strange brings him and Peter to the mirror dimension, where things just go, well, kind of spirally and just insane. It's actually a really fun scene to watch, but basically, Peter realizes the mirror dimension is based on geometry, and he's great at geometry. And utilizing the absolutely amazing power of math, he strings up Doctor Strange, takes the artifact and Strange's sling ring, and leaves him webbed up and stuck in the mirror dimension. Hey you, I just wanted to briefly stop you here, just to say, thanks. Thanks for being you. And thanks for liking and commenting and subscribing. I love reading your comments, even the mean ones. You should check us out on Facebook too if you wanna. Alright, moving on. Number 7. Luke Cage. Alright, we covered Luke Cage getting his butt handed to him the first time around, but I found a hilarious and much more subtle embarrassment dished out by Spidey. In New Avengers Volume 1, number 51, after Spider-Man revealed his identity to the Avengers, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage's wife, recognizes him because they went to high school together, and she had the biggest crush on Peter. Now, fast forward to issue number 53, Spider-Man and the New Avengers are floating in their Quinjet above New Orleans, looking for a place to land, when Spider-Man starts talking to Luke Cage about his wife apparently being in love with Spider-Man in high school, which he had no idea about. And while she's cute and all that, he believes in the statutes of marriage and the institutions, so Luke has nothing to worry about from him. But if him and Iron Fist broke up, then he'd like to get in on that action, you know? Luke just wants out as he calls Clint to land the damn plane already. Number 6. Firelord. Okay, look, he's not a hero. Well, he's hardly an anti-hero. In fact, he's kind of an anti-villain, but Firelord, the former Herald of Galactus and eventual member of the Nova Corps, came to Earth wanting to partake in all the great stuff we got going on here, only to be attacked by firefighters and eventually Spider-Man himself. And now, he wants revenge for the embarrassment. Look, he's not from here, okay? Just because he has different ideas of what's fair doesn't mean that he's evil, right? After Spidey leads the spicy Firelord on a chase all around New York, he decides to engage him hand to hand, and boy does he go off, dodging every swing against him with his spider sense and landing countless blows on the alien, leaving him unconscious when the Avengers show up to pull Spider-Man off of him. Number 5. Phoenix, Colossus, and Magic. A duo? And this duo? I know, it's crazy. In Avengers vs. X-Men number 9, a group of 5 X-Men were granted quite the power boost in the form of the Phoenix Force. The mutant siblings Colossus and Magic were 2 of these X-Men. Now, Spider-Man is physically no match for either one of these guys, not with the Phoenix Force. But Spider-Man isn't one to let something like that stop him. Even when beaten to a pulp, he still has that charming personality and beautiful brain. When one of the avatars for the Phoenix Force is defeated, the power of the remaining 4 gets boosted even more, and it's just these 2 left. And Spider-Man gives them a little innocent reminder of that fact. Now, we don't get to see the fight that takes place between the 2. Instead, we get to see the unconscious bodies of both of them, with Spider-Man still barely standing to let everyone know he got them to knock each other out. Number 4. Tony Stark and Reed Richards. I love when Spider-Man gets to show how smart he actually is. In Big Time The Amazing Spider-Man, the new Sinister Six has activated big boomies all over New York, and the Avengers are struggling with how to disarm and deactivate them in the 2 minutes and 28 seconds they have left. Reed Richards and Tony Stark, 2 of the smartest men on the whole planet, were going over options on how to disarm the thing. Freeze the thermal assembly? Nope. Use a sliver of vibranium? That won't do it. Spider-Man's got it. After taking a look at the clock, Peter runs over to the computer running the device and begins to sync up the timer with the system clock. Now, why the heck would he do that? Well, you see, it was the first Sunday in November, which means daylight savings time, which means Peter just bought them an extra hour to get rid of the devices. Nice move, kid. Number 3, Clint Barton as Ronan. During Dark Reign, the Avengers were more of a covert rogue team. Their leaders were lost in civil war. Secret Invasion had put everyone against everyone, unsure of who was a Skrull and who wasn't, and now Norman Osborn was in charge of everything. The new Avengers know they've got to find some way of getting Norman. Clint Barton, who was Ronan at the time, tried a media smear campaign and it didn't really go too well. So now, he just wants him gone, and he suggests just that in New Avengers issue 55. Spider-Man word slaps the gathered Avengers into their senses. Peter steps out right in the face of the idea of delifing anyone. Am I the only one here who wants to, act heroic in the face of adversity? He goes on to say that now that they don't have their Tony Stark money or Avengers Mansion and butlers, that Ronan is cracking up under the weight of the real world. Yeah, tell him, Spidey. Yeah. Number 2, Nova. Look, comics back in the day weren't always written the best, okay? In Nova number 12, Richard Rider is trying to find the criminal who de-lifed his uncle, Ralph Rider, and he flies past Spider-Man doing battle with the criminal. Now, Nova has seen Spider-Man in the papers with wanted signs and articles saying that he's a crook. And if he's here, then Nova has gotta at least make sure he had nothing to do with Richard's uncle, right? Look, he was distraught, okay? This little scuffle doesn't really go Nova's way though. After he lands a kind of cheap shot on Spider-Man, he catches some webs to the visor, then a fist, and after he lifts Spidey into the air, he catches a nice pair of Spidey boots to the dome as well. And as with most embarrassing fights, Spidey is giving him an earful about the error of his ways in the most hilarious way possible. Number 1, the Avengers. This isn't so embarrassing in the direct sense. You see, when all the Avengers and the Fantastic Four were off in a pocket universe fighting the villain Onslaught, New York lost its main defenders. Spider-Man, by himself, stepped into the role of the Avengers. One guy filled the role of a whole team, defending New York from all supercrime, and keeping the people of New York in remembrance of the seemingly gone superheroes. You know what? It's just what Spider-Man would do. He would step up when things looked their bleakest and take the heavy weight of being solely responsible for defending the world. Now, yes, this was the clone of Peter Parker, Ben Reilly, but he holds the same morals and powers. And the man took on an invasion of Sentinels, so yeah, he is taking this one. There were other non-active Avengers on the Earth still, and while they were considering coming back as a team, Spider-Man just did it. Way to go, Tiger. Number 10. Peter Parker. Hey, we didn't say which Spider-Man was doing the embarrassing here. Peter Parker and Miles Morales met for the first time when Peter was teleported to Miles' universe. Now, I don't know why Peter's first decision was to attack Mr. Morales. He's had clones of himself before, and he's also been to other alternate universes, but hey, that's what he did. And it was 110% a mistake. As fans of Miles know, he is extremely capable. And he also has a unique Spider-Man power set. He used his Venom sting to paralyze Peter while jumping over him. He then went invisible and got Peter with a sneak attack kick to the face. It doesn't stop there though. After Peter demasked Miles, he got a nice electric shock that knocked him out cold. For an 11-year-old kid, Miles gave the experienced Peter Parker quite the beating. Number 9. Winter Soldier and Falcon. For a young lad, Peter Parker seems to overpower a lot of people. In his introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Peter just shows us and 2 of Captain America's best pals that he ain't someone to mess with. During their fight, he overpowered the super soldier, even using his metal arms against him, disables and webs up Falcon, and redirects a huge chunk of metal flung at him by the Winter Soldier, all while quipping in the best ways possible. It was honestly so awesome to see when it first happened. He leaves them laying on the ground exhausted and webbed up. Not only an embarrassment for the 2 veteran soldiers and heroes, but a really fitting and hilarious introduction for the character to the MCU. Number 8. Luke Cage. A lot of the time, when a new hero is introduced into a comic book world, a fight between the misunderstood hero and another has to take place. That is exactly what happened when Luke Cage came on the scene. Luke Cage, the hero for hire, showed up in the Amazing Spider-Man number 123, hired by J. Jonah Jameson to capture Spider-Man for the death of Norman Osborn. Luke Cage ain't a guy you should underestimate by any means. super strength and stamina, bulletproof skin, and a healing factor. But it's Spider-Man. Luke tackles Spider-Man off a roof and gets a few punches in. But Spider-Man kicked him off of another roof, teased him about basically being a mercenary, slammed him through a brick wall, got several fists to the face in, used Luke's own weight against him, and punched him through a skylight. They come to blows later on in the comic with pretty much the same outcome, causing Luke Cage to quit this one particular job. Go Web! Fly! Up away Web! Shazam! Go Web go! 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 Go Web go! Oh wait, that's not my power. No, my power is to make YouTube videos for you guys. Do you know what gives me this power? You liking and subscribing to the channel, and you are doing an absolutely stunning job. Keep it up, and don't forget to check out our Facebook for more content. Number 7, the Hulk. In terms of raw power, Spider-Man stands absolutely no chance against the Hulk. I think his spider sense may give him some kind of advantage, but there is no way he is lasting long in that fight. Unless he gets a power boost in the form of, I don't know, the power cosmic. Oh, that's exactly what happened in the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 328. The Grey Hulk, who yes is a bit weaker and logical compared to his Savage counterpart, is hired by Sebastian Shaw to target Spider-Man. Money's always a good motivator. Unfortunately for Hulk, Spider-Man has been going to the cosmic gym and hitting the cosmic weights. He lands some pretty heavy blows on the Grey Goliath and even blinds him with a new I-beam power. When some kids are put in danger though, Spider-Man ends the conflict quick by punching the Hulk into orbit and then saving him before he suffocates, standing all confident with his hands on his hips and like that. Number 6. The Fantastic Four. In the very first issue of his self-titled magazine, Spider-Man is putting other heroes to shame. Spider-Man infiltrates the Baxter building, where he is encased in a plexiglass cage that he very easily opens the door to. He takes a single punch from the thing before he throws him into Johnny Storm. When Reed tries to catch Peter, he totally just dodges it and webs up Mr. Fantastic's hands. He uses his spider sense to detect Sue Storm while she's invisible and spins her around really fast with her lasso. But then, Johnny Storm gets him in a circle of flame. He says, and I quote, "Well, I'll just jump over that clown's little trap." It's honestly a pretty impressive display, and it happened in no less than 1.5 pages. The fight ends when Spider-Man lets him know that he's here to join up, and with that little fight was just a display of what he can do. Yeah, that little display would probably do better than a resume. Number 5. Iron Man. In the Civil War storyline, we know that Spider-Man initially is on the side of Tony Stark's Iron Man, but after he sees the lengths that Tony is willing to go to, he has a bit of a change of heart. Obviously, this leads to a scuffle between the two. At this time, Tony had given Peter the Iron Spider suit. What he didn't tell Peter is that he built in an emergency override that would shut down the suit and essentially shut down Peter with the simple phrase Omega Omega Epsilon 9. It's only a bit of a jerk move. You took Peter under your wing, but you're going to plant a failsafe against him? It kinda makes it look like you know you're guilty. But then again, he is a genius, he is a member of the Illuminati, and he is not the kind of guy to take risks. But how is this embarrassing for Tony? Well, I'm glad you asked, my little nerds. Peter is no idiot, and behind Stark's back, he hacked into the suit and built in his own override to override the override that Tony put there. Passcode, surprise. And the suit is back up and running and covers Tony's helmet in a thick layer of web, allowing Peter to get in a good punch and escape. Number 4. Wolverine. This one's a pretty quick one. I bet some of you thought I was gonna pull from the Wolverine vs. Spider-Man comic. I'll do you one better. It should be obvious, but you don't dare insult Mary Jane Watson to Peter's face. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 522, Peter is awoken with a call about a newspaper article claiming Mary Jane has a little entanglement with Tony Stark. It's obviously not true and actually a setup by a villain. But that's not the point right now. Peter got out of his bed in Stark Tower and goes looking for his wife. Along the way, he runs into Wolverine in a room with a very lovely high-up view of the city. Now, Logan decides to start going on about how Mary Jane messed up big time, and after a warning from Peter, he decides to comment on her lack of brains. This lovely little comment gets him thrown through an unbreakable glass window, and it gives him a really colorful way to catch a cab. Number 3. Daredevil. When Spider-Man was in possession of the symbiote suit, he wasn't his normal self. He was much more ruthless. And Spider-Man can already knock criminals into a coma when he is pulling his punches. When Spider-Man interrupts Sin Eater Stanley Carter from attacking Betty Brant and almost killing her, he starts to lay into the guy, beating Stanley while giving him an earful. Peter goes so far that Daredevil notices his heartbeat pounding and pulls him off of the beaten villain. He defends the criminal from Peter, who is seemingly gonna kill him. If you want him, you'll have to come through me. Probably not the best choice of words there, Daredevil. The very next panel shows Daredevil flying through a window. If it wasn't such a serious moment, I would laugh. Nah, I did laugh. Is that wrong? I can't help it, I'm sorry. Number 2. The X-Men. It seems that Spider-Man really shows his skill when he comes into contact with teams of heroes. First the Fantastic Four, and in the 4th issue of Secret Wars, the X-Men. As if dealing with multiple superpowered beings was his speciality or something. I think the best part about these altercations is the way he just keeps talking while he's embarrassing them. After Xavier senses Spider-Man listening in on their conversation, Spider-Man attacks the X-Men a little prematurely, I'll admit. He dodges Wolverine, webs Colossus' face, dangles Rogue from a rod, webs up Nightcrawler faster than he can say BAMF, and swats Wolverine away with a single swing and escapes. It's just so crazy to me how he knows that he easily outclasses almost every one of the X-Men. Or if not, he knows exactly how to subdue them. Number 1. Superboy. If we're doing a video about characters embarrassing other heroes, there is almost always going to be one point that has to do with the DC and Marvel crossover event. Just like the first point, this isn't actually Peter Parker though, but it's a clone of him, so that's basically the same thing. When the DC Marvel crossover happened, Ben Reilly had taken up the Spider-Man mantle. And it was him that fought Superboy on a rooftop. To get things going, Spider-Man hits the Superboy with a webbing right to his very stylish sunglasses. Superboy, just trying to get a hit on our Spider friend, busts a hole into a water tower, drenching the entire battlefield. Spider-Man wouldn't stand too long in a one-on-one slugging match with this guy. But that's not his specialty anyways. Just as Superboy is about to land a flying blow into Spidey, he jumps out of the way, firing webbing all over the guy and leaving the soaking wet Superboy to fly straight into an electrical box, taking him right out of the fight.
Number 10. Deadpool has a breakthrough. A breakthrough. Get it? You will. There have been a few times that Wolverine has shamed and embarrassed Deadpool, especially in combat. One such time, Deadpool was actually the one looking for a fight, and so Wolverine decided to oblige him. But he didn't just do that, he also gave him some pretty witty retorts as well. You see, Deadpool was made to believe that fighting Wolverine would help resolve some issues he has with his own past. And while Wolverine not only schooled him in combat, but also wisdom, at one point Deadpool asks Logan to dig deeper. Not knowing at the time what Wade is talking about at all, Wolverine responds with that deep enough murk as he stabs him through with his claws. Wolverine has always had some of the best mid-combat speeches and retorts. He also might have the mutant power of being able to leap and give you a whole speech during that one leap. Number 9. Namor gets beat in his own domain. Surprisingly, Wolverine has seemingly held his own against Namor more than once in the comics. One such time was when the two duked it out in Civil War. Their fight goes down in Wolverine's tie-in issues, mainly being featured in issue 45. Here, not only does Wolverine prove himself on land, but also in the sea, breaking into Atlantis and Namor's palace, and even managing to hold his own in combat against Namor's guards, fighting underwater. And Wolverine isn't usually the best at fighting underwater. He has an underwater suit of Iron Man's to aid him, but it doesn't seem to operate very smoothly for him. Despite this, he gets a few good hits in at Namor, punching him back for a joke that he made when he thought Wolverine was Iron Man about keeping Wolverine on a tighter leash. Yikes. In the end, Wolverine also proves himself to Namor, and despite their disagreement over who should get custody of the criminal Nitro, Namor meets him later at a bar to give Wolverine the information that he was looking for, which I think is pretty nice. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about more embarrassing moments that Wolverine has doled out, be sure to head on over to Facebook and click that like, because we are going to be putting up more content over there, and there'll be lots of good stuff for you in regards to Wolverine and other heroes. Number 8. Emma Frost's dirty secrets revealed. Dirty secrets. Actually, it's not that dirty. It's not that dirty of a secret in my mind, but you know, In this moment, it appeared to be, I guess, kind of dirty. During the first Civil War, Wolverine sets out on his own mission to capture Nitro, the one behind the start of the Civil War. Basically, the catalyst, if you will. He does this against the wishes of Cyclops and Emma Frost. When Emma and Cyke confront him about it in the 2003 Wolverine series in issue 46, the issue following the one with Namor, Emma threatens to basically mind wipe him back to a 3-year-old mental capacity. Wolverine responds by putting Emma in her place by 1, reminding her that the psi shields Professor X gave him protects him against her powers, and 2, by revealing that he knows she and Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, used to, team up. Well, Emma seems pretty shocked that Wolverine knows about this and is pretty embarrassed that he outed this previous relationship of hers to Scott. Her reaction is also interesting, as it's also during Civil War I, I believe, that she discloses that Scott does know of their relationship, of her relationship with Tony in the past, in a different comic. Although, maybe this happened after that, but I do believe the issue where Emma brings it up is Civil War issue number 3, and I think that was released before this issue. But maybe the continuity in canon is different than the release order, or I just found a continuity error, and that's what that is. Number 7. Is Hulk really the strongest there is? Yes, he still is, I think. He is the strongest there is. But he's not always the smartest, as is proven here in this fight against Wolverine from Incredible Hulk issue 340. Now, it should be noted that in this fight, Wolverine is actually taking on the Grey Hulk, which isn't known for being one of the strongest personas or versions of the Hulk. But still, the impressive part here isn't so much even Wolverine's skill and strength as a fighter, although you're likely to be impressed by that somewhat still if you're so inclined, but the smarts and character development we see Wolverine display here. Wolverine accidentally picks a fight with Hulk by insulting him, unintentionally. Hulk responds by attempting to attack Wolverine, who manages to get the first slash and kind of dodge in successfully, but then decides to take the higher road and actually chooses to apologize to the Hulk, not wanting to fight him and attempting to fight against his own internal animalistic desire and instincts to do so. When Hulk refuses to let him go and says, "I've gotten smarter and you've gotten gutless," Wolverine replied with, "Knowing when to fight and when to walk away is more smarts than you'll ever have." Yeah, I like that. Such a good Wolverine line to Hulk. Like, I'm just like, whoo! Ouch, you're gonna need some ice for that burn, Hulk. Number 6. Cable and Bishop both get bested. I can't even believe that this happened. Cable is considered an Omega level mutant, and yet Wolverine was still able to take him down. And for reference, Wolverine is considered beta level when it comes to his abilities and his control over them more specifically. At least, I think he's still considered beta level. He's definitely not Omega level, I'll tell you that much. Granted, Wolverine did have some help here from Bishop, and does at least choose to spare Cable during their fight as part of the Executioner song story. You see, he thinks that Cable is actually the one they're looking for, but really it's his evil twin Strife. Wolverine isn't quite ready to kill him dead though, not knowing about Strife, but he does have a small amount of doubt that stays in his head. So he's like, I'm just gonna hold off, because even though I think it's you, we don't know for sure. You're making me doubt it. Then when Bishop attempts to finish the job, because he's like, no way, we just hunted this guy down, we fought him, that's it, Wolverine in turn shows up Bishop by slicing his gun to pieces so that he can't actually kill Cable with it, telling him to cool off before getting another gun off the rack and getting back to sorting out this whole mess with Cable's currently very suspicious appearance and self. Even though, like we said, it's Strife, but we didn't know that yet. Or well, Wolverine didn't know that yet, at least. Number 5. Jean Grey gets more help than she bargained for. Jean gets more help than she asked for from Wolverine in this issue of X-Men. In fact, she didn't even really ask for his help to begin with, but she did complain about her ability to move freely in her outfit and her struggle to kind of like tear it so that she could move a little bit more freely. Which obviously was a classic mistake, because Logan is always more than happy to help Jeannie gain more mobility by maybe, parting with pieces of her garment. Hey, he's just trying to help her out. This all goes down in the very first X-Men Christmas special that we ever got. In this story, the X-Men are kidnapped, and it's during their daring escape that Jean complains of her inability to move freely. She's trying to tear her dress. So Wolverine, being the gentleman he is, sees her struggling and decides to help her tear away the bottom half of her gown, freeing up her movement, but at the expense of both irritating and seemingly confusing Jean, who actually responds with, "Hey, not so blasted short. Thank you very much. I think." I just love that whole response. She's like, "I'm mad, but what? what even happened? Number 4, Cyclops is shamed. When Emma and Scott started seeing one another, Wolverine was pretty quick to embarrass them and shame them in front of the rest of the team. Mainly, he focused his ire on Scott, who he saw as betraying Jean's memory. And he wasn't alone either. By the way, at this point, Jean had recently died and Scott and Emma were together, but yeah, people all felt pretty weird about it. A lot of the other X-Men felt similarly, and they began to actually treat Scott differently because of his and Emma's relationship. This was because the two had started seeing one another psychically while Scott was still with Jean, but he and Marvel Girl, as she was formerly known, were having marital problems at the time. He had a psychic affair with Emma, and then after Jean died, immediately started just being in this very public relationship with her. Wolverine even went so far as to fight Scott physically over this blossoming relationship with Emma. Don't worry though, Jean's ghost would arrive to give Scott the green light so we could all feel better about the whole thing. Jean's ghost always coming back to be like, look, everyone just be cool. I'm Jean's ghost. I am like a god. Number 3, Shatterstar gets shattered. That's right, Wolverine pretty much completely embarrassed and obliterated Shatterstar in the Executioner's song story. While Shatterstar did seem to miraculously survive here, Wolverine gave him a fistful of claws, not only embarrassing Shatterstar but also leaving Richter pretty distraught amidst the loss of his most dearest friend. Even back in the 90s, the feelings were pretty strong between Richter and Shatterstar, as is evident here and in many of the comics. This all went down in an epic fight between various X teams, including a split up X-Men roster into 2 separate teams, Blue and Gold, and X-Factor besides. Wolverine is quick to jump into action, and Shatterstar doesn't even get to show off his own impressive fighting skills much before Wolverine turns him into a shish kebab. For someone who is known for being a proud warrior, this whole display, I imagine, would be pretty disappointing for Shatterstar. While he didn't physically die from his injury here, he may have died of embarrassment. Number 2, Spider-Man gets hit where it hurts. In the heart. You can tell that this was a moment that really was upsetting to Peter Parker's Spider-Man because of how he reacts to it. At one point when both Wolverine and Spider-Man are staying in Avengers Tower, Pete and MJ, who is also there with Peter, have a kind of a relationship scandal. A news story is basically being spread around that MJ, who is still married to Peter at the time, is having an affair with Tony Stark. While Peter is distraught about this, Wolverine takes the opportunity to make a joke at MJ's expense and at the expense of her and Peter's relationship. He says, and I quote, "Sweet Cheeks messed up big time. It's not your fault she screwed up. I mean, if she had brains to go with all that beauty, she wouldn't be with you in the first place, right?" Ouch! Peter of course reacts by pushing Wolverine so hard that he goes flying through and out of a ceiling to floor window in the high-rise that was supposed to be made of unbreakable glass. So you can tell that one probably cut real deep for Peter. Whew. Number 1, the X-Force are defeated. The defeat of Shatterstar was just the beginning for the X-Force, unfortunately, in Executioner's song. Shortly thereafter, they would also be tracked down by Wolverine and taken out primarily by him and Psylocke, forced to surrender to the Blue X-Men and X-Factor teams. And they were backed into a corner fairly easily, I gotta say, with Wolverine choosing to hunt them down and citing it as one of the things he is best known for, which obviously here he proves he is best known for it. He's pretty good at hunting people down. Although I imagine X-Force, like the other teams, also felt pretty conflicted about this whole fight against their friends, so this combined with Wolverine's ruthlessness probably helped to convince them in surrendering. Still, pretty embarrassing that basically Wolverine and Psylocke show up and they're like, hey, we're just gonna do this, and then everyone comes in at the end to be like, yeah, we're here too.